Hey guys, this is Vishwajit, your instructor. In my previous video, we have discussed about installation of Minikube cluster and deploying an application on the Minikube cluster. Now, while deploying the application, we have seen few Kubernetes resources like Kubernetes namespace, Kubernetes deployment, and Kubernetes service. Also, we have done a port forward option. What exactly are these? So let us discuss right now. Namespace. In Kubernetes, namespace are the components which provides the isolation between two different applications. Now, for example, I hope you have seen the movie Transformers. In Transformers, there are two different Transformers there. One is Autobots, where Optimus Prime is the leader, and the other one is the Decepticon, where the Megatron is the leader. Now, in between these two teams, they do not interact and they do not communicate among themselves. Similarly, in Kubernetes, the namespace objects creates the isolation between the Autobots and the Decepticon. Between two different teams. There are multiple ways of creating a namespace. So let me show you few methods of creating a namespace.
So first of all, use kubectl get namespaces to see the list of predefined namespaces. Predefined namespace means the namespace which are already created during the creation of the cluster. So now use kubectl create namespace and then namespace name. So I'm using Autobots as my namespace. So you can see here Autobots is created. Another way of creating a namespace is using the YAML file. So I'm getting the YAML from the Kubernetes documentation. So create a new file. You can name the file as anything. I'm naming it as mini namespace.yaml. So my namespace name would be Decepticons. Now, if you have a YAML file, if you want to create object using the YAML file, you can use kubectl create -f then the file name. Now you can see we have a namespace named Autobots and Decepticons.
Deployments. In Kubernetes, deployment are the resource which actually consists the information and the expected configuration of your pod. Now, pod is your containerized application running on the Kubernetes cluster. Now, let me show you how to create a deployment. Let us see.
So first of all, we need a container image to create a deployment. So I'm using podman search httpd to search for an image. Now use kubectl create deployment, then the deployment name is Optimus Prime, and -- image, specify the image, then specify -n for the namespace. I'm creating in Autobots namespace. Use kubectl get pod -A to see all the pods in the namespace. So you can see this is our pod. We can also create by using the YAML. So I'm using the documentation to copy the YAML. There you go. YAML copied. Now create a new file. I'm naming it as minideployment.yaml and I'll paste the YAML content. Now here we need to change few values. I am naming it as Megatron. We also have to change the image. So use podman search httpd for the image. So I'm using httpd image. You can use any image you want as per your requirement. Everything is fine. Now use kubectl create -f then your YAML file. Then verify the pods are created or not. You can see the pods are created, but they are created in default namespace. So I need to delete it again. Let the pod gets terminated. Yes, they are terminated now. Use the same command but specify -n with the namespace name. So here Decepticons are my namespace. You can see there are 3 pods. It is because of the replicas here. It is 3. You can use kubectl get pod -A to see all the pods in the cluster. Now you can see we have 3 pods. Similarly, you can use kubectl get deployment -A to see all the deployments in the cluster. So we have the deployments, but we do not have the services of that deployment. So you can see specific to Autobots and Decepticons. So here we need to create the services so that we can access the application within the cluster or outside the cluster.
Service. In Kubernetes, service is an object which helps us in communicating with other components within the cluster and outside the cluster. Now we have many different types of services like node port, cluster IP, load balancer. Now let me show you how to create a node port service for our example.
So let's expose the deployment to create a service. So use kubectl expose deployment name which is Optimus Prime, then use -- type. I'm using node port and the port number will be 80 for me. So these we are creating in Autobots namespace. So you can see the service is created. We do not have any service in Decepticons, so let's create a service by using the YAML file. This is the second method. Again, I'm using the Kubernetes documentation. The type will be node port. And then service name will be Megatron. Okay, use kubectl create -f and the file name, and we are creating on the Decepticons namespace. We can see here service is created. Now use kubectl get svc -A to see all the services in the cluster. So one thing, we have 3 number of pods, so I want to reduce it to 1. So you can change the replica by using this command. See, now the replicas are changed to 1. Now let's enter inside the pod. So use kubectl exec -it pod name, then -n the namespace, then -bash. So the web page will be there inside the var www.html directory. So this is the content of the web page. Same thing I'll be doing for the other pod. The web page will be there inside the var www. So this is the content of the web page. Use minikube service list. This will give the URL to access the content of the pod. So you can use curl -k and the URL to access the pod. Now here the web page is not visible for the Megatron pod. What's the reason? Let us see. So let's describe the SVC. You can describe the SVC by using kubectl describe SVC Megatron and -n Decepticon. We can see here target port is 9376. Actually our pod is running on port number 80. So let's delete this. Okay, I saved and recreate it again. SVC is created. Now check the service list. Now try to access the content of Optimus Prime pod and Megatron pod.